Hello and welcome back to the Energy Wellness Series. I'm going to share with you three different types of external negative energy that you're going to want to be able to identify if you are an empath, a sensitive, HSP, psychically sensitive, many of the terms that we use to describe people that have a very porous energy field that typically pick up things that the normal average person does not. Our reality looks and feels different, and sometimes that can feel like a burden. And I don't want that for you, right? Especially during the holiday season, we want to actually have fun, we want to relax. And so I want to give you this information on three types of external negative energy so that you can start to discern and identify where the energy is coming from. So the first type of external negative energy is environmental energy. This is strangers, people out and about, places with negative spiritual energy, crowded places. It could be you're out and about and you hear a really angry argument happening. You could maybe witness an accident. You could be around stressed out people. Even when you're in an environment that you enjoy, you still may experience energetic overload during or afterwards. And so it's good to know that as a citizen of the world, sensitive folks like us, our sensitivities reach far and wide. So you may realize that you're able to feel collective energies, things that are taking place in other parts of the world. Energy, after all, functions beyond the boundaries of space, time, and location. And so it's easy for us to be affected by things that are going on that we don't even necessarily see, but we can feel. So this type of energetic residue needs to be cleared and released, similar to taking a shower or even cleaning your house on a regular basis. If these energies are not cleared, that dirt and mess can pile up and it becomes much harder to manage. You start to feel weighed down, you start to feel emotions that aren't yours. Sometimes you even start to feel physically ill. So it's best to take a proactive approach to your own energetic wellness. The second type of negative energy is interpersonal energy. And so this includes energy that you pick up from people that you're in contact with who have negative feelings or energies towards themselves or others, whether it's conscious or not. So this could be maybe someone with a low self-esteem, maybe someone who's undergoing some personal life conflict, maybe someone that is really sad or angry. These types of emotions that other people are carrying can be energetically draining to people who are sensitive like us. And so people in deep emotional pain or even physical pain, those people that are coming from a place of lack, maybe they're competitive or envious, those people who embody low energy behaviors and emotions, such as addiction, jealousy, guilt, shame, anger towards themselves or someone else. These can all affect people who are very sensitive. It's easy to think that, okay, well, my friends are my friends and everything's fine, or I know all my family members and, I get along well with everyone. Even if you have a good relationship with people, your energy can be affected, it can be dampened by simply being in their presence, or even in communication with them if they're holding on to something within themselves. So it doesn't even have to be directed toward you. It could be just something that they're going through on their own. And so this isn't to incite fear or paranoia in any way. It's just to remind you to be self-aware and proactive, in noticing how you're affected when you're around certain people. Sometimes we can even be affected by interpersonal contact over technology. right? It could be through social media, it could be email, it could be, just opening a certain website. There are different energies that we're able to tap into when we are in contact psychically with other people. And so keep that in mind as well. Another thing to keep in mind with interpersonal energies is that sometimes people that we are no longer in contact with can psychically reestablish a connection with you merely through their thoughts and emotions. So, in other words, their focus on you or their missing you reignites a psychic connection. And so it's kind of like that energetic thread or cord that connects you to, and it starts to siphon your energy away. And so, even though this is typically a one-way connection with the other person drawing energy from you to them, if you're sensitive, sometimes you can feel their emotions as they're your own. And so sometimes you can start to feel depressed, you can start to feel sad, you can start to feel regretful if you're tapping into that other person's energy simply because they're connected to you. And so if you find that, you're feeling in ways that don't really make much sense in the context of your life, sometimes there is a person from your past that's psychically reconnecting to you. And I know I've had this happen to me, is that sometimes they'll just pop into my mind. And so I know it's that person. Or I'll get a memory of that person and I'll think, okay, that's not really coming from me. This is that person thinking of me. Or sometimes it'll come through a dream. So it's good to just be aware of the different ways that people can show up because of the connections that we have with them, both past and present. Um, Another thing that I want to say about interpersonal energy is a lot of empaths, they end up feeling the negative energy of people that are suffering that they care about. And they instinctively take it on themselves in the spirit of helping, right? Kind of bearing the burden with the person that they care about. And so I want to remind you that each person has their own path in life, I guess you could say, right? We each have our own challenges, our own things that we need to overcome. And in order to truly help somebody, sometimes it's best to let go and honor their experience by being there for them, instead of attempting to take on their challenges. So, you can give them an ear to listen to, you can encourage them, but you don't want to energetically take on what they're going through. And so, unless it's a life or death situation where we actually need to intervene, we get to develop the skill of honoring each individual's power to exercise free will and authority over their own life path. All right, let's move to negative spiritual energy. There are two types of spiritual energy that can negatively affect us. One, it's just basic psychic energy that comes through thoughts and emotions of other people. Sometimes it's bad intentions, sometimes it's envy, jealousy, those kinds of things. Usually, the psychic energy is not intentional, it's just kind of happening. Another type of spiritual negative energy is ritual, and this is magic that is created by a skilled practitioner. And so both of these types of energies are potent. They're very heavy and they tend to last and compound on themselves until the energy is identified and cleared. So it's important to notice that both of these types of negative spiritual energy are energetic violations, and they leave you feeling more than just a bit off balance. Sometimes they can cause alterations in your system, resulting in different problems in life. It could be pertaining to your health or safety, even. Sometimes these attacks are meant to stir up chaos and bring you down. And sometimes there's a specific tragic goal in mind. So with witchcraft, black magic, things like that, there are specific motivations usually for such attacks. But most of the frequent ones that I've experienced or witnessed have been connected to jealousy, revenge, rage, or hatred. And so the motivation is coming from a really dark and ugly place. And whether it's the psychic attack when someone is just thinking of you very intensely, creating that psychic connection and sending you information with their thoughts, or if it's a planned, intentional, malicious attack, like a ritual magic attack on someone else's energy by another person, by a practitioner. They can both be harmful if you're not aware that they're actually happening. If you think that you're imagining things or just have bad luck or might be just thinking you're going nuts or crazy, a lot of that is a part of the insidious, covert nature of those kinds of attacks. And sometimes they're hard to believe, even harder to prove. But if you have experienced this firsthand, you know you've been attacked, and sometimes it takes a while to actually come to that realization. But usually through repeated instances, you start to get clear on, okay, this is definitely some really toxic poison energy that I need to clear. If you find that you've been the target of ritual magic, it's best to stay out of fear. Obviously, it can create some fear because you don't know where it's coming from or why. You just feel the dark energy. Just know that that type of practice really violates the law of free will, and it comes from ignorance. It comes from desperation and fear, and eventually those choices that they're making to attack in those ways, they have negative consequences for those who participate in such practices. That energy brings their energy vibration down, but it also puts different entities in their field that they're going to be kind of opening the door for them to come into their lives and wreak havoc in their own ways. So a lot of times they think, okay, it's just this one thing that I'm doing to this person, but truly it opens up a whole door of darkness. And I don't think anyone listening to this is probably sending out magic. Most of us find ourselves on the receiving end or suspect that we're on the receiving end. So it's just a reminder that the light always wins, and there are consequences to the light or the dark, especially the dark. All right, so I'm going to end it here. Those are the three types. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you soon.